You would not believe it if I told you my son, the only person I had left in this world, had just passed away. The funeral was not even over yet, and my daughter-in-law had already kicked me out of the house. They were still closing the casket lid when she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, her voice low enough that only I could hear, "You have 7 days to leave." It was not a condolence, not a word of sympathy, just an eviction notice wrapped in a thin layer of cold politeness. I did not turn my head. I did not react. I just sat there still as stone, my hands unconsciously crushing the funeral program into a wrinkled mess. The pastor was still talking about peaceful departures and the gates of heaven, but all I could hear was that one sentence echoing in my mind. Michael, my only son, had just died of a sudden heart attack at the age of 33. He was the only person on this earth who ever truly cared about me. And now, before I could even begin to process the grief, his widow Samantha had already shut me out of both their lives. She wore a perfectly tailored black dress, like it had been custom-made for this performance. Her tears looked like another layer of makeup, easy to wipe off, easy to replace. While I was clinging to fragments of memory, she had already started erasing me from the home I helped them buy, the home I had shared with them for the past 7 years. After the funeral, she did not ask if I wanted to come home, but I got into Michael's car anyway, as I always had. His old cologne still lingered faintly in the air. I should have broken down right then, but I could not. I was too busy, wondering what Samantha was planning next. When we got home, she hosted guests, like the leading lady of a carefully curated memorial event. She gave a brief speech about Michael's kindness and humor, his love for family. She poured wine. She toasted. She smiled just enough, cried just enough. But I noticed other things. Michael's photos were gone from the staircase. The box of his military medals had disappeared from the shelf. She was erasing him bit by bit. When everyone had left, I went to my room, the room I had lived in for 7 years, and found the door already open. My blankets had been folded neatly. The nightstand lamp was unplugged. Half the drawers were empty. My jewelry box was missing. In the closet, cardboard boxes were labeled Mum's stuff. I stood there frozen, like my brain needed a few extra minutes to process what I was seeing. When I stepped into the kitchen, Samantha was sitting at the table, wine glass in hand, eyes glued to her phone. She did not look up. I cleared my throat. "Did you move my things?" She glanced up and said calmly, "Just organizing a bit. I can call a moving service whenever you are ready." I asked about the jewelry box. She smiled faintly. "Part of it is in the safe. I was worried people coming in and out might make you lose something. I never asked you to do that. Michael and I talked about it," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "We thought you would want to move in with your sister." I stared at her. "I do not have a sister, and this is my home." She shrugged. "This is Michael's house, and he would want me to have the space to grieve." Then she looked back at her phone like the conversation had never happened. I turned away, swallowing my anger, and went back to my room to check the rest of my drawers. The small box I always kept hidden under the bed was gone. I opened the closet, pulled down a box labeled Old Documents. Inside were bills, letters, warranty papers. And then I found a folder where I used to keep old medical records, a savings book, and my passport. But the thing I needed, the house deed, was missing. The document that had both my name and Michael's on it, the one we kept together when we bought the house. I helped him with the down payment when he lost his job. The property was co-owned, or at least it used to be. And now it was gone. The next morning, Samantha was at the kitchen table, laptop, open, coffee brewed. She was typing rapidly, barely noticing me standing behind her. When I opened the fridge, all the food containers labeled with my name were gone. In their place were pristine plastic containers I had never seen before. I spoke up. I did not request a moving service. She did not look up. "I know, but you said you wanted to handle things on your own schedule. I'm just trying to help." I said nothing else, just walked into the living room. Michael's old recliner, where he used to sit and watch the news, had been replaced with a sleek, cold leather chair. I bent down. His favorite blanket had been stuffed behind the TV stand, like trash. "Where is Michael's chair?" I asked. It was old. Didn't match the space anymore, Samantha replied flatly. I'm not planning to sit in the chair of a dead man. That was the first time she had spoken his name since he died, and it was the most hollow thing I had ever heard. I stepped out onto the porch, took a long breath, and called Attorney Holt. This time I scheduled an official appointment. That afternoon, I brought a copy of the property deed to his office. Holt examined every page, nodding slowly. Your name is clearly on here. Signature is valid. If you still have proof of the check used for the down payment, we have grounds to file a legal defense against any attempt to remove you from the home. I asked, can I file something proactively before she tries anything? Yes, and I recommend you do. You are not alone. From now on, I'll be handling all legal communication on your behalf. I left the office no longer a victim, but someone with weapons of her own. When I returned home, Samantha was in the garage on the phone. I heard her clearly say, she still doesn't know. I'm speeding things up. Should be done before the end of the month. I walked past her without a word. But that night, I gathered all my important documents into an envelope, sealed it, and wrote Holt's name on it. The next morning, I hand-delivered it to his office with a note, urgent documents. When I got back, Samantha was cleaning the garage shelves. Just clearing out some junk, she smiled. But I noticed Michael's fishing gear was gone. When I checked my nightstand drawer, it was locked. I had never locked it. I pried it open with a screwdriver. My medication was gone. So was the small stash of cash I kept hidden. The message was clear. Samantha wanted me to know I had no privacy left. I did not react. I just quietly went to Michael's old filing cabinet. In the third drawer, I found a refinancing document, and my name was still listed, even though the papers had been updated just a few months before he died. Samantha's name was nowhere on it. I took photos, backed them up to the cloud. That night, I overheard Samantha on the phone in the hallway. Yeah, she's still here. I know, but she's got no legal rights. She's just freeloading. I stepped into view, making enough noise so she would know I had heard. She turned quickly, surprised. Everything okay? I replied. You might want to be careful what you say in this house. The walls are thin. And I walked into the kitchen, turned on the coffee machine, like I had heard nothing at all. From that night forward, Samantha began avoiding me altogether. No more small talk at breakfast. No more pretending to care when I came home. But I knew the silence was not surrender. It was retreat, and I was ready for whatever she had planned next. 3 days later, Samantha announced she would be hosting a gathering for Michael's friends and colleagues, a warm memorial evening. She smiled as she said it in the kitchen, pouring almond milk into a glass, avoiding my gaze. Just a small get-together to share memories and say goodbye. You don't need to prepare anything, just keep the guest bathroom clean for me. I said nothing, just nodded lightly. She did not invite me, but she did not forbid me either. A familiar tactic turning me into a shadow in my own home. That evening, she wiped down the kitchen counters, polished every surface. She pulled Michael's old bar cart from the storage room and loaded it with hard liquor glassware and silver napkins. It looked more like a cocktail party than a memorial. Guests started arriving at 6 in the evening. The first was Kyle, one of Michael's closest co-workers. He hugged me tightly and whispered. He always told me, if anyone ever truly had his back, it was his mom. I almost cried, but I just nodded, held it in. I would not allow myself to be weak, not in this house. After Kyle came the neighbors' co-workers, Samantha's gym friends, some familiar faces, some not. Samantha floated through the crowd like a queen wine glass in hand, smile constant, occasionally dropping light anecdotes about Michael. She was flawless and completely fake. I stood in the corner, watching, not smiling, not speaking, but I listened. I observed. A middle-aged woman approached me. Are you Michael's mother? Are you still living here? I answered calmly. I have lived here since they bought the house. I am a co-owner. She blinked. Oh, I thought Samantha said. I cut her off with a polite smile. She must have forgotten that detail. Easy mistake. About an hour later, Samantha approached me, still smiling, but with eyes like knives. Can we talk for a second? I followed her into the hallway. She shut the door behind us. Her voice changed instantly. "You are trying to cause trouble, aren't you?" I replied evenly. I just answered a question truthfully. "Don't play dumb. These people came to remember Michael, not hear about real estate documents. Then don't host a wine party in the house you're trying to steal from me," I shot back. She flushed, but held it together. "If you're unhappy, you can leave." I smiled, tilted my head. "I'm not going anywhere." Then she leaned close, whispered the same voice from the funeral. "You think you're clever, Grace. You have no idea how this game works, but I'll make you regret it." And she turned, walking back to the living room as if nothing had happened. I did not respond, but deep down, I knew the real battle was only beginning. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in bed with the lights off, but my mind kept replaying Samantha's every word, every fake expression from that gathering. I knew there was something deeper behind her smiles and glances, and I made up my mind tomorrow I would start digging. I went through everything in Michael's old office drawers, file cabinets, even boxes from when he was still single. I found a small unlabeled USB drive, plugged it into the computer, and inside was a folder named House Docs, Backup. Inside were scanned copies of the house purchase agreement, refinance papers, a photocopy of the old will, and a strange draft of a new will that did not have my name on it. The only name listed was Samantha's. The date on that draft, after Michael had already passed away. I froze. It was a forgery. I printed everything and took it to Attorney Holt that afternoon. He reviewed each page carefully, his eyes narrowing. "This version has no legal notarization. And the date, if what you're saying is correct, then this is evidence of document forgery after the deceased's death." I nodded. "What can we do from here?" "We can petition the court to freeze any transfer sale or mortgage of the property, and we can file a motion for a will fraud investigation. I also have an original handwritten will from Michael. It is not signed, but it is clearly his handwriting. It says, 'Clearly don't let her take everything.'" Holt nodded firmly. "Keep that safe. It could be a key piece of evidence." That evening, I came home. Samantha was in the kitchen, video chatting with someone laughing. "Yeah, I'll have full control in about 2 weeks. Don't worry, everything's going smoothly." I walked in silently, opened the fridge to get water. She looked up, startled to see me. "Did you need something?" I stared directly at her. "Next time you hand me any paperwork, make sure it has a court seal. Otherwise, I'll give it straight to my lawyer." She was speechless, did not respond. The next morning, someone slid an envelope under my bedroom door. Inside was a computer-printed notice, no legal seal, stating I had 48 hours to vacate the premises for causing emotional distress and an unstable living environment. At the bottom, a line read, "Failure to comply may result in police report for elder neglect." I folded the paper calmly, no fear. In fact, I smiled. She had just handed me more evidence of her scheme. I took the paper to Holt the same day. He read it, then shook his head. "This violates civil law and crosses into potential criminal behavior. Rest assured, we will respond. With law, with truth, and with everything she never saw coming." I left the office with a new resolve. This was no longer a family dispute. It would be exposed in court where Samantha's charm could not save her. 3 days after we filed the legal case and supporting documents, Holt called me, his voice brimming with restrained excitement. The court has accepted the motion to investigate the will and has temporarily frozen any property transactions. The first hearing is scheduled for next week. I stood in the living room, phone in hand, a weight lifting from my chest. Justice had finally stepped into this house. That night, Samantha's behavior changed drastically. She became suddenly polite, asked if I wanted to have dinner together, even suggested we shop for baby supplies. "I want things to be easier between us," she said, her eyes trying to look gentle. "For the baby." I tilted my head. "What baby?" She paused, then gently placed an ultrasound photo on the table. I was waiting until it was confirmed, but now I can tell you. I am pregnant. I said nothing, looked at the image, the date printed in the corner just about a month ago. Michael had been gone nearly 3 months. I used Michael's frozen sperm. We had talked about this. I wanted to keep a part of him. I looked her in the eye. If it was really for Michael, why didn't you tell me from the beginning? She said nothing, just looked down, but I knew this was her final emotional card played for the courtroom. The next morning, I met with Holt and showed him the ultrasound photo, comparing the date to the documents I had found on the USB. He frowned. The date of the ultrasound and the date of the fake will draft are only days apart. If we can prove intent to manipulate widowhood for financial gain, this case goes beyond civil. I nodded. She is constructing a story, but I have all the proof to tear it down. The court day came. Samantha arrived looking pristine cream blazer, pencil skirt clutching the ultrasound like an emotional shield. Her lawyer opened with a solemn speech about grief loss and the noble path of single motherhood. But once Holt stepped up, everything shifted. He laid down 2 thick folders before the judge, evidence that the property has included Mrs. Grace's name from day one, proof of initial down payment from her personal account, documentation that the refinancing papers did not include the defendant, and most importantly, a forged will draft with metadata showing it was created on the defendant's device after the husband's death. The courtroom went silent. The judge flipped through the pages quickly. His gaze moved from the documents to Samantha, to me. I hereby freeze all attempts to alter the property title. Co-ownership with Mrs. Grace is recognized. The will documents will undergo further investigation under forgery suspicion. Samantha's face went pale. Her lawyer whispered something, but she was too stunned to respond. Her lips tightened. Her hand crumpled the ultrasound photo. I stood up. I did not smile. I did not celebrate. I simply bowed slightly to the judge and left the courtroom. This was not a victory. This was truth finally being heard. 2 days after the hearing, the atmosphere at home had changed completely. Samantha no longer spoke to me. No acting, no small talk, no fake kindness. She simply existed like an unwanted guest in her own scheme. Early one morning, I saw her packing her bedroom. Boxes hastily labeled, books, winter coats, personal documents. She did not apologize. She did not show regret, but her silence was the clearest confession. That night, Samantha came into the kitchen and placed a small silver USB on the table. I'm leaving this. You do not have to watch it, but if you do, maybe you will understand me better. I did not touch it, just nodded. Later, I finally opened it. A video played Samantha sitting in Michael's office. No makeup, no performance. If you are watching this, I have probably left. I did not make this to ask for forgiveness. I just wanted to say I did not do all this out of greed. I did it because I was scared. Scared of losing everything. Scared of living under your shadow. It was too big, too heavy. She bowed her head, then looked up. But I was wrong. I tried to erase you from this place, and that destroyed what was left of me. I did not cry. I did not feel anger. I just felt relief, because the one who tried to erase me had walked out of my life on her own 2 feet. 3 days later, Samantha left. No goodbyes, just a fading scent of perfume in the hallway, faint traces in the bedroom, and a silence one that I had reclaimed inch by inch. I stood on the porch watching her car disappear down the street. I did not smile. I did not grieve. I just knew the last one to leave was not me. I never watched that video again. I deleted it, not out of spite, but because I would not carry warped memories into the next chapter of my life. The next morning, I woke early. The sky was clear after a light night rain. I opened every window in the house, letting the light pour in like it was the first time this home could truly breathe again, no longer a stage for someone else's show. I placed Michael's photo back on the hallway shelf. The frame was old, but his smile remained warm and whole. I walked the halls, running my hand along each patch of paint he had brushed on himself, every little scratch. I once nagged him to fix memories that seemed small, but wove together the very soul of this home. And I realized I had not just reclaimed a house. I had reclaimed memories, dignity, truth, and the role of a mother. A role no one could replace or box up like unwanted clutter. I sat on the porch with a cup of hot tea, and for the first time in a very long while, I exhaled. No more fear of being watched. No more worry about losing my place. No more pretending. I lived. Simple as that. But this time, I lived for me. And if Michael is watching from somewhere above, I believe he understands his mother did not let herself be buried in silence. She spoke. At the right time. In the right way. Because peace is a kind of victory too.